by my Father's flames. Fight your fears and heal your pain, and victory will be in your name.
I used to be weak, but I'm not weak no more. I found the strength of my ancestors deep down in my African core. I used to be frightened, I'm not afraid no more. The Father blessed me with the heart of a lion and a warrior soul. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them. Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David turned Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people to go meet it up, pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it up. No weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them.
Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You're everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to fail. And remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of life. Send down your warriors with the hello. They carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this storm is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could it be that really so
No weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them. I am a man, I am a champion, I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Al Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 WeiVybz Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live feed, whether it's on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you may be. Good morning to you. It's a beautiful, beautiful morning in the Spice Isle. I know it's a bit hazy this morning because we're dealing with that Saharan dust, but nonetheless, it's still a beautiful morning. In studio with me this morning, I have none other. If you see the eye I get in it, none other than my co-host, Mr. Fuller. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning to you, Miss Duncan, and a very, very pleasant morning to our listeners out there. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. And they're looking forward to having a very productive week. As you have said, it's a wonderful day. The sun is out. God has blessed us with sight, with life, with the ability to move. So we are mobile. Let's use it to our advantage and, of course, to the benefit of the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. I do wish that today's program is going to bring some level of inspiration to you.
All right. Mr. Bola, yesterday was Father's Day. How was your Father's Day?
Oh, superb. I mean, my children all wish me Happy Father's Day. And I got so many messages from so many different people. It made me feel like I was important. Other than that, I got to doing most of the things that I would do on the day and found some time later in the afternoon to rest. And myself used the opportunity to reach out to a couple of friends and, colleagues, wishing them all a happy Father's Day. And asking them to reflect. Sometimes we just use the day for celebration, for merriment. Have a couple of drinks, eat some food, just be good, and not really taking time off to reflect on the true meaning and the true purpose and the rationales behind being a father, and the fact that we have a significant responsibility on our hands to take care of the younger ones or those whom we are supposed to be a father figure to. And I just want to add in here that you don't have to be the father of anyone biologically, but you can take up that social responsibility to help guide and direct younger people in the way they should go. So while I think a little fun and laughter and enjoyment is absolutely necessary from time to time, being in the COVID period, maybe it did not present the opportunity yesterday for a lot of people to do that. But I hope they would have used the opportunity, like I did, to meditate and to think and to retrospect, look back, ask ourselves, have we been as good an example as a father figure as we should be? Have we been doing as much as we can? Have we really lived up to the expectation of those who are looking onto us for guidance and for direction? We have to do that from time to time, or else we won't be making a lot of sense. So I hope that most fathers, or almost every father in Grenada and throughout, did have fun time, did have a wonderful time. But more importantly, if you didn't use the opportunity yesterday to reflect, to look back, and also to look forward as to what changes you can make and how you can better deal with the task before you. Today is not too late. Tomorrow will not be too late. But I'll rather suggest that you use some time today. 15 minutes of your lunch break. If you're not at work and you're at home, I mean, right now, if you're listening to us, just stop for a moment and reflect. Ask yourself. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to confess that to anyone else. But of course, if you wish to talk to your children, your wife, or a good friend and say, I've not been the best I could be, that's okay. But to yourself, be honest and ask ourselves, have I been doing as well as I should be? And if not, what are the changes I will make moving forward? What are the things that I will do different moving forward? And really make a good effort, a strong effort, valiant effort to make the change and to be positive.
Absolutely. Well said. I mean, I can't speak on fatherhood because I would never be a father. But there are a lot of mothers out there who are doubling up. Some people believe that they already have Mother's Day, so why should they celebrate Father's too? I believe that if you're doing it twice, celebrate twice. you know. But Mr. Bola, we have so much to talk about today because we didn't get to do a recap of last week because so much happened during that week, and we didn't get an opportunity to do a recap. But before I go on, I just want to say a special good morning to all of my regulars on the live video, who they're always tuned in, they're always listening. Louisa, Delma, good morning to you. Anne, and the few that join in later on, good morning to you. I want us to start off with the conversation of agriculture. And guys, let me let you know that it is Monday. So we are going to open the lines very early so that you guys can pose questions and so on. Utilize Mr. Bowler's mind while he's here, Keep him thinking.
I'm not the host of the program, right? So I don't know why it's my mind you want people to trouble. You are the host, yeah?
Yeah, but they have to keep you thinking, keep you going, pick your brain.
Okay.
It's a wealth of knowledge that's sitting next to me. So, I have to get all that I can get from him, right? But we are going to open the lines. The number to call is 440-7377 if you're local. If you are in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, it is 347-329-3101. We also take WhatsApp calls and WhatsApp messages at 440-7377 as well. Now, Mr. Bolo, on Wednesday, we had the Honorable Minister Gregory Bowen, and he was here. He shared quite a bit of information with us. But the one thing that stuck out to me the most, and I want us to touch on it because it is something that I think the general public must be aware of. And it has to do with what we say, when we say, and how what we say affects us as a country. He went further to make mention of the fact that a lot of investors, people from the World Bank, people from IMF and so on, they look at the various programs in the country. They listen to the various media shows and so on in the country, and they take note of what is being said. Mm-hmm. And he even went further to say that a lot of the time decisions are made based on what goes on in the media. So, and we've said it here before, that when we feel that we go on to certain programs and we go on Facebook and we go on social media and so on, we say certain things that we very well know is not true. Or even if we're not 100% sure that it's not true, but we say it anyway, that we feel that the only people being affected are the people that we say it against, or the only people that read it are Grenadians, that we are so wrong, and that what we say can have such a big impact on how we thrive as a country. And I keep preaching that here, day in and day out, and I'll continue to do it, that we have to be so careful what we say and where we say what we say.
Absolutely, Ms. Duncan. One of the things that we have to quickly realize, if we have not yet, is that, and it has been said time and time again, the world has become a smaller place.
Yeah.
Not in terms of its geographical space, but that information technology has transformed the way in which information moves around. Long gone the days when relatives outside of Grenada had to wait until they receive a written letter through the post to get information on what was happening in our country, or vice versa. Long gone the days when in a community there was just one or two people that was privileged to have a telephone. And if there was an emergency, you needed to go and pay a little fee or beg a favor to communicate with a family member who was out of Grenada. Long gone the days when people relied on the BBC, people in our third world countries, to give us news of what was happening internationally. Today, almost in an instant, as the events occur, we can view it from our living room. We can view it in our transport. We can view it in our offices. We can view it via our cell phones, or we can receive a message. So sometimes things happen here in Grenada, and I get a posting from someone in New York before I hear it from someone here in Grenada. So it is in that realm and in that terms I'm saying that the world has become a smaller place. Information traverses this planet within seconds. Something happens in China or in Australia or in Japan, thousands and thousands and thousands of miles apart from us in Grenada in terms of the land space. But within seconds of the event occurring, we can know about it. We can hear. We can get a live feed. We can see what's occurring even while the event is taking place, whatever it may be. Having said that, and to regress a bit on what the minister said, we deal with and depend heavily on our international partners. I recalled when we spoke about the structural adjustment program, while it was homegrown, while it was developed by our own sons and daughters of this soil, of Grenada, we needed the partnership of the international organizations to help give it greater credibility and acceptability in the international world. So hence the reason we needed the IMF and the World Bank and the Caribbean Development Bank, the European Union, and all of those institutions to get buy-in, to look at what we were planning to do here in Grenada, how we were going to restructure the economy, how we were going to get the economy active and growing again, and to accept it and to help us sell it to other people, to our lenders, to our creditors. You know, people who were doing business with Grenada, and to make Grenada worthy again of their investment. So, when we sit in the comfort of our chairs or whatever it may be, and we decide to say something, facts will always be facts. Truth will always remain truth. And of course, no one, and I am in no way going to accuse anyone of saying that you cannot be critical of the government or you cannot highlight the misfortunes or the mistakes. But we have to be careful, as you've said, how we do it, where we do it, you know. And sometimes, even when there is a measure of truth in what some people say, the amount of additional things that are put on, that are so far from the truth, that are fabricated, it can paint a very dark picture of the social and political circumstances that occur in this country. And bet you bottom dollar, these institutions do not just listen to what the government has to say when a proposal is brought forward. Because I can recall, I was in opposition at one time too, 2008 to 2013. And when the IMF and whoever came to Grenada, they did not only meet with the government side, they did not only go to the Ministry of Finance, they met with private sector people, they met with us as opposition. They wanted to know certain things. And the very questions that they would pose to the government, most of the time they pose a similar question to the opposition, to civil society, to the business community, because they want to get a true picture. Because when they invest, when they give a grant or a soft loan, they want to be assured that the money is being spent and utilized in such a way that it can bring benefit across the board. Now, that arrangement may be with the government, but the government's responsibility is to ensure that there is an enabling environment for every citizen, irrespective of the political affiliation or religious belief or color of skin, can thrive and can survive. And so they would look, they would dig, they would listen to hear what people has to say. And so what you have to say is important. But you must remember that you, at the same time, if you're spreading information that cannot be substantiated, that is not totally true, that is fabricated and make-believe, can affect the progress and upward mobility of the country.
That is true.
Yes? And sometimes when we speak like that, there are those out there who think that you want to defend an NNP. It's not about NNP. It's about Grenada. the Grenada that I live in, the Grenada that you live in, the Grenada that we hope will be preserved for our children and grandchildren to live in. So we must do what is proper to maintain and take care of that Grenada. And granted, before you come in, Miss Duncan, granted that as an opponent of the government, you want to get the reins of power. You want to get into office. Mm-hmm. And yes, it is your right so to seek that opportunity, because Grenada was not stamped with NNP on it.
Yeah.
Right? Grenada wasn't stamped with NDC on it or GULP. We are all political parties that strive to be in office. But use good, positive messages. Don't try to destroy the country and its image because you are anti the people that are in office now. Because if by some reasons, by some means, you then get into office, you would have to repair all of these damages before you can move forward again. So you would have to step back, trying to replace stones in places that you would have removed because you wanted the building to crumble.
Yeah.
Right? You would have to do the repair, the damage control before you can go forward. And before you know it, 5 years will be passed with you trying to catch up for the damages that you have done, and you will do nothing positive for the people. Mm-hmm. So let's stay on a positive wicket, a positive stand where we can oppose each other. Like we said last time we were here, we can criticize, we can be against, but we don't have to be disrespectful and disruptive with the way we do it.
Absolutely. We have our first caller on the line. Let's take that call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to you, Miss Duncan and Mr. Bola.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Right. I'm calling because I have been troubled over the weekend. Now, with that interview that the ministers had on Friday, I believe, the minister would have spoken about the airport being opened and Grenadians coming home, which I'm glad for. But here is the problem: there is a mandatory quarantine for 2 weeks. If someone is supposed to come home for 2 weeks, how would he or she be quarantined? Because normally when I come home, I normally come home for 2 weeks and then I leave. I don't come forever. And the government has not, cabinet has not spoken about that. In my mind, that means that I should not come. I should not come home. I should just stay where I am, and it does not sound right. So I'm hoping that the minister hear what I'm saying and address that, because yes, I'm not speaking about the fee for quarantine. I don't have a problem with that. Whatever it costs, I can pay it. That's not a problem. But my issue is I cannot be coming home for 2 weeks and be quarantined for 2 weeks only to take the plane to go out. So I would like that to be addressed, please. And have a good day.
You too, caller. Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Bola, they did mention in previous press conference, and even the minister, when she was here, she did speak about that. Now, we have to understand, and I keep using the word understand, because this is not a normal situation. It's not something that we are accustomed to. It's probably not something that we even favor very much, and we must understand that there must be protocols in place to protect our people. Now, the minimum amount of time that you can be quarantined for is 14 days. We cannot just open our borders and say, come one, come all, and do as you please, So the protocol of 14 days was put in place for our safety. Now, if you're coming for 14 days, then, they won't say don't come, but let better judgment take place. Because we cannot say to some, okay, well, we gonna waive the 14 days quarantine for you because it's only 14 days you're coming for. You know, it just doesn't. It's too much of a risk. Mr. Bola, what are your thoughts on that?
No, but and I understand both sides of the coin. Yes, I understand the caller, anything. But as you've rightly said, it is not normal times. Who knows? 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 5 months from now, 1 year from now. Because they've always said COVID is still a pretty new virus. Yes? They call it the novel coronavirus. They're still learning many things about it. The experts are still experimenting. So there is no one size fits all yet. There's a great hope that in the next couple of months, hopefully, there'll be a vaccine so that people could be vaccinated. And then a lot of the precautionary measures that are being taken now may not or no longer be necessary.
Right.
Or maybe minimized. But we don't know yet. For the time being, they're saying, if you want to come to spend time in Grenada, these are the conditions under which you can come. So if only 14 days you can afford, it may be best not to come now. And I'm saying it may be best. The ministers did not say that. And wait until months from now, something different may be in place. Mm-hmm. However, though, and I hope that I'm not mistaken with what I've heard, from that interview from the press conference done, I thought I heard from the Minister of Health that if someone leaving a particular jurisdiction, the destination where you're coming from, can certify, bring information to show that they did a test within 7 days before they left that jurisdiction, and that test was negative, you will be tested here upon arrival, and if that test also shows up negative, after a certain amount of days in quarantine, you will still be quarantined. But I think after 4 or 5 days, you will be tested again. And if it shows up negative for a third time, these people, and I want to believe that's what I heard, we need to verify it, but I think that in his explanation he did say, but it must start with you doing a test that can be certified, yes, that COVID test was done at the point where you are originating from, and it must be within 7 days. If it's more than 7 days, then it won't be accepted. So if 9 or 10 days before you travel, you did a test, it won't be accepted. It must be within 7 days. So 7 as the most, maybe 5 days, 4 days, 3 days. It will be accepted. The results will be accepted. You will be tested. You still will go into quarantine. But you may be able to spend a shorter time because you had 2 back-to-back within a certain amount of days. And after you spend 4 or 5 days, they may do a third one. But they must all show up negative for you to think. That I think we need to verify. I just go out on a limb to say, because that was my understanding from the explanation given. So while 14 days is the number of days, is the time span you're supposed to spend, I think we need to seek more information so people who are desirous of coming to Grenada can always call or go onto the website of the Ministry of Health and verify the information or ask some questions, and to be certain what the protocols really call for before you book and come. Because if you book for 14 days, and that's what you have to spend in quarantine, as the caller rightly said, you then just have to take the plane and go back. Yes? And I don't know that they would lift the ban for you to say, well, you're coming only for 14 days, so spend 5 in quarantine and take the other, 8 or whatever days, 9 days to move around with family. No. That won't happen. The protocols are strict. They are laid there for our protection and also for your protection. Yes? So verify, find out. I believe there is something in place that can cause you to spend a shorter time in quarantine, but it involves you getting a test within 7 days before you leave the place of origin or the jurisdiction where you are stationed, and that test must be negative.
Absolutely. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to you, Mr. Duncan and Mr. Bola. Good morning.
And how is my good friend from Carriacou? How was your Father's Day?
It was fantabulization. Where I get that word?
Fantabulizing.
Yeah. I just picking out the word. I know where I get it. Everything. And all was yours.
It was good. Good. Really, really
Did
good.
you been in Bathway or Grandans Beach?
I did not go to the beach yesterday, but I've been to Bathway Beach since the restrictions was lifted. I've been to Bathway on 2 occasions before,
so
but I didn't go
celebrate
yesterday.
Father's Day in advance.
Yes, I did in advance. Yesterday I stayed home.
Okay.
I was hoping that my wife might be able to make me a new father again, but
What is wrong
yeah.
with you?
Well, it's Father's Day, so I mean, you get the point.
You seen the Sarah dust in the air?
Yes. It makes me believe that a rain would be falling anytime. Only
Yes.
You could say it again.
yeah, it looks a little overcast, but it's the dust. So how is Carriacou?
Well, Carriacou is just hot and sunny.
Hot and sunny today. You all start planting corn yet? I know Carriacou
We plant a little bit just in the back garden.
Yeah.
But the real thing, we don't put it down.
You haven't put it down yet. I know that the Carriacou like to plant the corn and peas and thing. And
Yes.
Yeah.
But when I planting corn, I can't plant it for me and you.
You plant it?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't eat a lot of corn though, but I
don't eat a
love.
lot?
No, I like a little roast corn now and then.
But we just have corn marron up here.
Yes, I know corn festival. I know about that.
Festival.
Yeah, but peas, man. I planted peas already. You know, I have some pigeon peas that is almost knee height already. Plant them in the dry season. I used to give them a little water.
You're the farm of the moment.
Well, you could say that, but I don't want to claim that.
Okay.
Yes.
But you go to speak at your hand and see why you're getting us.
Yeah, of course.
Can tell.
Of course.
So why is the river is very rich?
Because it have a bank on its side of it. Thank you.
Because you got 2 banks.
2 banks, yes.
Ms. Duncan, did you know that?
Yes, I know that one.
I know that one. Okay.
All right. Well, Mr. Mills, you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for calling and checking up with us.
You wish it is my command. I will be back again.
Yes. And
All
turn
right.
up your volume. Keep your radio loud so your neighbors who don't have radio can hear the program because we're talking
Okay, I will do
interesting
that.
things.
No problem with it.
Good, Mr. Mills.
When
Take
I'm
good
going
care.
to see you, Mr. Bola.
Of course, I told you anytime I'll be coming, you will know. I mean, we still have to keep with physical distance. We're trying to open up borders and so.
Because may I making New Year?
No, man. Before New Year, man. As soon as things settle down a little bit, I'm coming to Carriacou. I have to
You
come to
said before
Carriacou.
Christmas?
Yeah, before Christmas. Certainly.
Nice, before New Year, man.
Certainly before Christmas and New Year, Mr. Mills.
Well, I'll be looking out for you. I will be so glad seeing you.
I know. God
right.
bless you, good soul. Take care. Give our regards to the family and friends. Take
Well,
care,
Mr.
Mr. Mills.
Bola.
Yes.
I did need to have that one-on-one talk to you, with you.
You need the...
I said I did need to have a one-on-one talk to you
Okay, well, why don't you call after the program?
after the program.
Yeah, when the program
How
is
long
over.
After the program.
I mean, anytime after 12 o'clock.
After 12.
Right.
Definitely.
Good.
And you take care, sir.
Be well, too, with yourself.
Miss Duncan.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Nice stuff.
Yes, Mr. Boda. So, as we were saying earlier, we must use our discretion and we must be understanding in this situation, you know, because it really is a very different time for us, you know, and everything we must understand is being done for our safety and our protection. It doesn't benefit the government anything to open the economy or to open the airports to boost the economy and then its people get sick. You know, so protocols, while the economy, yes, the borders have to be opened at some point and the economy has to be boosted at some point, we must also appreciate and understand the fact that our safety is paramount. Our safety comes first. And they will do what needs to be done. It may not be a favorable decision for everyone. We may not like it. And you see, we always say that's the thing about leadership. It's about being able to make those difficult decisions, those unpopular decisions, you know, at a time when we know we'd probably get a lot of backlash for it. But at the same time, we know in the long run, it is beneficial to the people that we govern. You know, I know none of us don't want to go back under lockdown. I was never really on lockdown because I have to come to work every day.
So you were breaking the protocol?
No, I was allowed to work.
Okay.
I was never really on lockdown because I had to come to work every day. I was allowed to work. But, I mean, there are lots of people who would definitely not like to go back under quarantine. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
My name is Duncan.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, talking about school in Carriacou now, talking about TAMCC in Carriacou.
Uh-huh.
I want Miss Evelyn Fair to know that TAMCC we want attention and action and not announcement.
Attention.
All right, can you be a little bit more specific? When you say attention and action.
The school is deplorable and old and falling to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So, the school needs repair.
All right. Well, we understand what you're saying now.
Yes. I'm the security for TAMCC, and the school crack up and march up for a long time, and the school need repairing.
Mm-hmm.
And it already was only words and nothing doing.
Have you spoken to anyone within the Ministry of Carriacou and P.T. Martinique or anyone in the Ministry of Education?
Come on, man.
No, I was just asking you, have you spoken to anyone?
I try to speak about that every day. I keep speaking about that. No, baby, I keep dragging the foot on the ground. We talk about that every time.
No, but have you spoken to anyone within the ministry to know if any plans are underway?
Yes, I spoke to them. They keep dragging food. I know about it.
All right. Okay, thank you so much for your contribution, caller.
Words are getting.
All right. I know in early last year, there was an article I read in one of the papers regarding the condition of TAMCC in Carriacou and P.T. Martinique. I even saw some pictures. It was an issue of concern. I do believe that plans were being put in place for the renovation of TAMCC. But what I want people to understand, I do agree that yes, TAMCC in Carriacou does need a little bit of renovation and so on. However, we must understand that these things take time. So you see, we can't just jump up one morning and be upset about the fact that TAMCC needs repairing.
Well, he said he's been talking over a while, so
right, but
just get up. But what is also very important is that TAMCC is being controlled by a board of directors. And is not directly
under the Ministry of Education. Yeah.
While government do have some authority and do have some responsibility, I think it would be best for us to bring the matter to the attention of the minister, the concern that the caller had, and let the minister or whoever else in the ministry has responsibility or from TAMCC to say what the plans are, where they are, because I cannot speak with authority
on the subject
matter. Yes, I think the best thing is to, as we normally would do, take a note and pass the information on to the relevant authorities.
All right. Yeah. And also I understand that he's a bit passionate about the situation and with good reason. I mean, it's an educational institution and apparently he sounds like he's been working there for quite some time. But please, in futures, and a lot of people don't understand that when you want to be heard and listened to, you don't have to always be aggressive, and you don't always have to shout. And I mean, I understand the issue is a passionate one, but you have to take time and to get your message across properly. All right? We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Duncan. Can you give me 1 minute of your time, please? 1 minute, please.
Off air?
Yeah.
Well, we're not taking...
Is it possible to do that?
I'm not... No, unless we take a break. And we're not taking a break right now. Would you like to call after the program at 12 o'clock?
Okay.
All right, great. All right. Yeah, but it's important for us to understand that just a little patience to get our message across in the right way. You know, I'm quicker to listen to somebody who comes to me and says to me in a nice, calm, soothing voice than somebody who approaches me to shout and badger at me. you know. But I will speak to the minister. I will try and get some information on what is happening in regards to TAMCC. I know there's been a big reshuffle in TAMCC as it stands right now, with the Minister Emlyn Pay being responsible for the running, not the running, but overseeing from the ministry standpoint or cabinet standpoint of tertiary education, and TAMCC falls under that. And they've also received an interim chairman of the board. So some changes will be made. You know, a lot of new things are about to happen. We just need to give it some time. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Duncan.
Good morning, Miss Cammy. Good. How was yours?
Good morning. Good morning, to Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, Miss Cammy. Thank you so very much.
I know they cook food for you to eat yesterday. Right, and they make us produce.
Yes.
Right. Well, I just want to make a 2 cents on people concerned. So much people concerned about the airport.
Yes.
And coming to Grenada. You know, I don't want the airport to. For one, we need the airport to. We cannot have the airport closed down. No, it's time. We have to adjust itself, Mr. Bola and Ms. Duncan.
Yes.
That we have to adjust itself to live with COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
We have to adjust itself. The protocol, wash your hands, wear a mask, be very careful, socializing and all that things. So we have to cope with that. We cannot keep the airport closed. A lot of people will not agree with me. They're saying, even if you keep it closed for an next 2 months, they will still complain.
Mm-hmm.
If I live in England, and I want to come on vacation in Grenada, I'm coming for a month or 2 months. Because they know the protocol, they're going to have to go in quarantine for
14 days.
2 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you cannot buy a ticket for 2 weeks, and you have to know how to go in quarantine. So you go buy a ticket, so you go spend 2 months. So you know when you go in quarantine, you have enough time to go on the beach, eat your oil down, have your fun with your people in Grenada and visit different sites in Grenada. Mm-hmm. So when people call in and say about things, they know, the people that living abroad know that they have to go in quarantine. If we leave Grenada and we go to America now, we know the protocol going on out there.
Yes.
Right? So anybody's listening to me this morning and they have to come back to Grenada on a vacation, book your ticket for a month or 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Because you must go in quarantine when you reach in Grenada.
Yeah.
That's the protocol here. Right? But I want the airport to open. People will get something to do. Somebody will get a guest in the guest house.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody will just go in a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people that don't want the airport to open is people that they don't want nothing for the economy in Grenada.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see it fall. And then they start to blame the Prime Minister. Because everything that goes wrong in Grenada is Chief Michelle they calling out.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the people in the car, they know the protocol. You're going to go in quarantine. Mr. Watts, good morning. Good morning to Patricia and Mr. Deputy and all my friends in England and in Canada. Good morning. So if I look coming home, don't book for 2 weeks. Book for a month, 2 months. Have a good day, Grenada.
Thank you,
Miss Cammy.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
Yeah, I mean, and she's right. If you're planning to come to Grenada, well, not just Grenada, but any of the islands that are open, if you're planning to come, use your discretion. These are the protocols here. Take that into consideration before making your decision. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Ms. Uncle, good morning. Again, sorry, I'll be very quick. I don't normally call back, but I think things are taken out of proportion, so I just want to clarify what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we understand when this COVID thing came, there was an issue. You had people who live in Grenada got locked out because airport was closed down.
Right.
These people don't live outside of Grenada, so then they are coming back home. these people we understand would have to be in a mandatory quarantine. But then again, you have a second class of Grenadians. So it's two different classes of Grenadians we're speaking about.
Right.
This class of Grenadians we're speaking about is those that are out, like me and others, who will, of course, when the airport is open, you cannot say to Grenadians, don't come. You understand what I'm saying? You cannot say to Grenadians, don't come. But people like me who have come and I want to come home. But normally when I come home for 3 weeks. I hardly be a month. I may be a month, you don't know. Because of my job. Sometimes I come today and I leave tomorrow. That's how it goes with me. So these are two different classes of people, I think, that the cabinet should have sat and considered. The people who are Grenadians and got locked out because of COVID, and those Grenadians who wants to come home. I don't want people blowing this thing out of proportion. It's not like what's going on now. It's not like that. That is not what I was trying to convey to the members of cabinet, not the Grenadian population, not the people who just like to pick up phone and call. To the members of cabinet, there are two different classes of people to consider. One, again, is the people who live in Grenada who got caught up in this COVID thing, so they're outside, they need to come back home. You're living in Grenada. Then you have another class who does not live in Grenada, but of course, you can't stop them from coming in because they are Grenadians. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, caller, we're very clear with what you said, but remember, the cabinet just don't make the decisions as it relates to those things. There's the COVID-19 team that consists of the medical professionals and others, and they're the ones who advise cabinet as to what's the best protocol to put in place. And while your example, your differentiation makes sense, because there are those who came in last Friday, and sometime before we had I think British Airways coming from England, and so these are Grenadians who has to be repatriated because COVID had caught them outside of Grenada, and they need, because the place of ordinary residence is here in Grenada. And then you have other Grenadian nationals who place of ordinary residence, maybe England, Canada, or some other place. Now, it may be difficult for the government or for the COVID-19 team to put two separate sets of protocols in place, because COVID-19 doesn't differentiate whether you are a Grenadian who was caught abroad on vacation or you are a Grenadian who lives abroad and want to come home for vacation.
Yeah.
If he's going to take you, it's going to take you. It's one thing about COVID, and we've said that before, he doesn't take side. He don't care about your color. He don't care about your race, your background, right? So it affects everyone in the same way, and it's spread in the same way. Yes?
Yeah.
Now, if the caller was listening earlier on when he raised the concern, I did see that what would be best for those who want to come on vacation is to get in contact first with the Ministry of Health, or go to the website and find out all of the protocols, because there may be things we might be missing. And I did mention that I thought I heard the minister said, if you did a test within 7 days before you leave your country of origin to come to Grenada, the results will be accepted once it's authentic. If that result was negative, they're going to test you upon arrival. You will still be entitled to go into quarantine. But within a certain amount of days, far less than 14, you will be tested again. So that would be 3 tests within the 14 days. And if all 3 turns out negative, then you, I think, would be allowed to leave quarantine before the 14 days. But that has to be verified. Yes?
Yeah.
I said so. So maybe, yes, the cabinet and the COVID-19 team had thought about how they can reduce the amount of time you spend in quarantine. But you must get the information, you must verify, and you must do as the protocol say, because I think it begins with you having a test done wherever you are located, not before 7 days. If you do it 9 days before or 10 days before, it won't be accepted. It must be within 7 days before you leave that place to come to Grenada. So I think that the consideration has been given, caller. What we need to do is check with the ministry, check with the people in authority, verify what is possible from what is not. And you may well find that someone could book for 2 weeks or 3 weeks probably and be able to spend 5 or 6 days out there with the public once they follow the protocol as being prescribed by the COVID-19 team and ratified by the cabinet.
Right. And maybe it's a good idea. I think now is ample time to re-invite the minister to sit with us and have a conversation, especially for the people in the diaspora with these kinds of questions.
Yes.
And they may be able to better answer these questions. I did get a quick update on the TAMCC issue, but I will take this call first and then we'll get back to that. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. And good morning, Mr. Buller.
Good morning to you, sir.
As usual, you're my special person.
Thank
all
you.
the time.
Thank you.
Now, listen to the conversation. And your last caller, he's so right. And you are so right. But there is another aspect of that discussion. That is those who are caught out there, those who wants to come back to go, but those who wants to come back to stay. So that's the third category. And if you follow my conversation over the years, not months, but over the years, you would observe that I had been talking the economy. The expansion and growth of the economy, pertinent commerce, raising the population, giving people a chance to expand and to engage in new businesses for the purpose of revenue. Now, where we are, I believe we are technically trapped because we're between rising costs and a small population. And if businesses cannot be open or will not be open as usual, we will be losing a lot of revenue, but people have to survive. You see? Now, if we had expanded the economy rapidly over the years, many years, we would have a larger population, we would definitely have better commerce, and we'll have more revenue. Now, would the government be in a position to respond in the way they responded now for long? I said no. And would people be able to take care of themselves for long? The answer is no. So what is the situation going forward? I don't know if you're following me. And that was my concern over the years. Even when I was working with government, I raised this concern. We cannot continue run this country on a small population that don't lend itself to what you call brisk commerce, as to creating jobs and revenue for the state. So what are we going to do in this time? Who are we going to turn to when everybody is in problems? It's in the same boat. What are we going to do? I am very worried. I'm very worried, particularly for the young people who perhaps will be qualified but not being able to get a job and no earning, but they have to survive. I leave it with you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, caller. We on Friday we had Mr. Clark here, and he brought up a very interesting concept where we call it the copycat mindset, where people in Grenada generally go based on what they see others do in terms of business. So, for example, a man may start selling DVDs on the side of the road, and someone is looking at him. They say, okay, well, I find he getting a lot of customers. I find I'm making money. There's a demand for DVDs out there. So I'm going to do it too. And I'm going to set up shop, just a little way down the road from him. Same thing happens in agriculture. I find you making money in tomatoes. I'm going to plant tomatoes too. And I think it's similarly what the caller is speaking about. People not lending themselves or opening their minds enough to take risks in small business, and lend themselves to building the economy, the local economy, that is. So, for example, there are a lot of areas in our country where there's a need. For example, the Ministry of Agriculture may need some agronomists. The Ministry of Works may need some engineers. But we see a lot of people studying psychology. We see a lot of people sending their children to study business, international business. We see a lot of people sending their children to study administrative work. When are we going to get to the place where we look at where there is a need? We see a lot of people becoming doctors and lawyers. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, Mr. Bola. But at the same time, I cannot say that I'm going to send my child to become a lawyer when the country is saying that we need engineers. And then when my child is finished and there are no jobs, I'm saying that, well, nothing is happening in the country. But there's not a need for lawyers because it's already so overly saturated. So we have to start looking at ways, innovative ways to start business. I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, that you shouldn't set your eyes on being a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it may be. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, whenever you are making a career choice, be mindful of where you are planning to work. International business, fine. But that is if you are planning to migrate and do business elsewhere. Or if you are going to feed into a career need that the country has, or that a deficit that the country have. Because at the end of the day, if we don't need doctors and we are sending people to study to be a doctor, when they finish study, what are we going to tell them?
Well, in line with the discussion, the point raised by the caller and what you're getting at, I think the government is very much aware of some of those things, and that is why for the last 2 or 3 years and maybe 2 years, and it's a bit troubling that they have not completed yet, that a committee was put in place made up of people from the government service, from the private sector, and so to do what was called the 2030 plan. I know after a year or two they had shifted now to the 2035 plan, which is some level of planning that is looking forward, that is forward thinking, 15, 20 years down the road. Where would we be? What is it we would need? What do we need now to get us there? And what we would need to continue the pattern, So 15, 20 years down the road, we know what we want. That helps in doing a lot of what you say. In terms of business, what kind of business would there be in Grenada 10 years from now? So forward thinking, people that has a vision. So a lot of work went into it. I am not certain where they are now with that plan, but it was much talked about prior to COVID and the year before. Maybe COVID-19 had put a little damper on it now. It probably has been shelved. But maybe the time is right again that they dust it off the shelf and look back at it. Maybe it may be necessary to tweak a few things, to make some changes, because we see how everything can just be dismantled.
Yes.
In a moment's time.
Yes.
And who would have thought? I think most people were thinking if the world was to be brought at a standstill, it would be as a result of a nuclear bomb or some major war between the superpowers, America and Russia in a clash, something of the sort. I don't think much of us ever thought that a simple virus, would bring even mighty nations, nations that are 10 times stronger in terms of the currency, in terms of the economy, in terms of the medical facilities, the military, and everything else, to their knees, without a bullet being fired or a bomb being dropped. Yes, so probably things might have to be tweaked to take into account these scenarios. But the 2030, I keep saying the 2030, I think it's now the 2035 plan, is handy to come on board now, and let's start stripping it apart and people starting to prepare. Those who are ready can start, and those who are not yet ready can see the light forward where possibly there can be interest down the line, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. So Yes, the economy has to be planned and people have to get involved, but people must know it cannot be waking up this morning and deciding that's where I want to work.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. That's where something is needed. We don't want to be copycat. We don't want to overpopulate any one area, like you see with the minibuses now, so many of them, and they all work at the same time, and then after a certain hour,
you don't get no bus.
You can't find a bus. So we need to plan ahead.
Yeah.
We need to look ahead. We need to diversify a bit, and so I think if all of that is being done, and done with the intent of making Grenada a better place, not just being done because I am given an opportunity to plan, so I want what I know, what I think I know, or what I think is best to be surfaced. No, it must be with good consultation, with people understanding why certain things are being done, and we having an appreciation of what the results may well be, because it's planning and things could still change when you plan, because the environment sometimes changes, the environment in which you have to operate. So we need to do that, and it is something that we need to take note of, and probably the Minister for Trade and Industry and so probably can be consulted, because I think he would, that's Minister Joseph, would know or have some ideas about that plan. I think a significant amount of work, from what I last heard, was already done. In fact, there were consultations at the community level. I remember being in one of those at the Tivoli High School. So a lot has been put into it. I don't know if it's completed. I don't know if it's under review. I'm not sure where it is. But we need to seek information and be able to bring some greater clarity so that members of the public would understand what is happening and the direction that things are moving, so they can be at ease and start working with it.
Right. As it relates, and I want to get back to the topic of planning, because that is a very, very important topic. And it's something that as Grenadians we shy away from, proper planning. But before we do that, let me give you the update on TAMCC. So from what I understand, the refurbishment of TAMCC in Carriacou was on a list of projects to be done this year, somewhere in the tune of $1 million to be completed. However, as we know, COVID came around and put a stop to almost everything. So I'm hoping that as time goes by, as we start getting back into the groove of things, that it becomes one of the priority projects. At least for now, we know that, well, school is out and nobody's returning to school, so probably would be the best time to tackle it. But of course, there are a lot of other things that you have to take into consideration, right? But let's get back to the topic of planning, Mr. Bola, because that is something that is a topic that is very dear to me. It's also a topic that you speak about a lot, proper planning for the future. And I mean, speaking to you about it has put a lot of things for me as a young individual into perspective. For example, what am I going to do with my future when I retire? I mean, I'm only 30. And... You're
that old?
Stop that.
I thought you were 13. 13, okay. My bad.
Don't make me... I already feel...
With age, my hearing is not as good as it used to be.
I already feel like I'm getting too old too fast. And I'm not celebrating any birthday this year, so it will have to wait until next year. I'm not aging anything this year.
In fact, you can wait 5 years.
But... At the age of 30, I'm already thinking and already putting plans in place for my future, because I understand, and not just as a young person, but also as a person who's responsible for the lives of 2 other individuals. I have to think along those lines, because today or tomorrow something happens to me. Where will my children be? Where will they be? What will become of them? What am I leaving? What legacy am I leaving for them? And these are the things that we must consider at a very young age. So the topic of retirement plan, the topic of a pension plan, the topic of saving for your entire retirement, investing in your future. Some people are of the impression that when they retire, it's just for them to go and sit at home and put up their foot, and then NIS go mind them. you know.
Manna will fall from heaven.
Manna will fall from heaven.
Yes.
But, you know, you have to put plans in place for any eventuality. You may not be able to think of everything that may happen to you when you get older, but at least have a backup plan for your backup plan, you know, so that if the plan that you have for your future falls through, you have something else to fall back on. You know, let's say, for example, you're working in customer service. You decide you're retiring. You retire at the age of 60. What do you retire to? Are you just going to sit home at the age of 60? Mr. Bola, can you imagine when you get to the age of 60 just sitting at home?
Well, I don't imagine those things. I honestly don't. I live with the moment, but I plan for every eventuality. As a matter of fact, what do I say as a motto in life? I accept whatever is here. I hope for the best in everything that I do, everything that I'm involved in. I hope for the best. But mentally and otherwise, I'm always prepared for the worst. So in other words, whatever we are going to engage ourselves in, we want to be at the top of our game. We want to always be the best. We want to get the best out of it. But as I've said earlier on, circumstances can change and can change quickly in moments. So in our planning and our preparation for the best, we have to condition ourselves that if the worst should come out of the situation, we are not shocked. We are not taken by surprise. We can still deal with it and still survive. Because, you know, when there is not all of those considerations, and when people are not prepared mentally and otherwise, with things not working out exactly as they wanted to at the top of the line, their dreams, aspirations, and the whole life become shattered. And we have to be careful. Our foreparents used to say to us, do not put all our eggs into one basket.
Yeah.
In case that basket drop, you lose everything. Now they knew what they were talking about when they said so. It also means they also said, do not spread yourself too thin, so that if water is thrown at you, you can't stop it. Now, you need in your planning to have a mainstream and have several distributaries around it.
Yeah.
So if one stops, the water stops from one, there are others where the water can still come. But it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. You know, this get rich quick fix mentality doesn't really make life easier for us. Yes?
Yeah.
We need to be patient. We need to understand that in order to build a foundation, it will take a bit of time. We have to become much more stable. So planning is integral at the national level, and that's where government comes in. Planning is integral at the business level for those who are involved in whatever type of business. Planning is integral and important at the family level, because you must know you have your children, you have a husband, you have your grandparents or your parents that are senior and they are dependent on you for some level of assistance.
Yeah.
You must put a plan in place. How do I deal with all that? Remember, your salary is fixed at a certain amount. Yes? And at the end of any 1 month, it doesn't just expand.
Yeah.
So because this month and grandma got sick and had to be hospitalized and she needed to have a couple of tests and it amounts to $500 or $750, automatically your salary at the end of the month doesn't increase by $750. You still get the same salary that you got last month and the month before, save and except there was an increase by 2% or 3% on the job. So we have to always and constantly be planning and making preparations for those eventualities. Of course, the Holy Bible says one should not be worried about tomorrow. Live for today, not worried about tomorrow. It goes on to say something that the birds in the air and what doesn't worry about the next day. Meaning that we should be grateful for what we have before us now, in the present. But we cannot be so careless not to think that another day will come in which we still have to survive and have to continue to live. So preparation has to be made, of course. We are a Christian society and we trust God that, you know, good things would happen to us in good times and also in bad times. But if we are not prepared to deal with the bad times, we could be shattered. Planning is absolutely important. And planning with a clear mind, because we can talk about planning and we can sit down and we can scribble something on paper, we can say a few words. But if our mind is not clear, if we do not have long-term vision, our vision cannot be myopic. It cannot be just right to the tip of our nose. We must have long-term vision of where we want to be, what we want to see happening, and how it will happen. And then from that long-term vision, we can break it down into silos now. In the short term, within the next year, within the next 18 months, within the next 24 months, these are the things that I want to do, and this is where I want to be. Within the next 60 months, the next 5 years, these are the things that I would like to do. So you have the short, you have the medium, and you have the long term. So 10 years down the road, this is exactly what I would like. And if we can surpass what we have put in place, is even better. But some of us, and most of us, I should say probably, we just go day by day, we take it as it comes, we eat if there is food, we cry out when there is none, We hope someone will take care of us if we get sick. We believe that the government has something in place when we don't work anymore to give us. And some people, I've met several people who say to me, but I'm 60 years now and I ain't getting the government pension. And I have to explain to them that what government has in place is not a pension, but it is a social security service that they give to the most vulnerable people. But it's only a certain amount, and only a certain amount of people can benefit. So we need to see ourselves from stage to stage, in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years, in 8 years, in 10 years, probably put it down on paper. And if we're not sure about what we're doing, then seek the advice and assistance of someone who are better qualified than you. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't make you a lesser person. It doesn't show you up as being incompetent. If you go to someone of good repute and good integrity, your pastor, your former principal, whoever, I'm just suggesting a few names, and sit with them and say, hey, here's where I am today. This is the job I'm doing. This is what my salary is. But this is what I want to achieve. I want to be married in the next 4 years, in the next 2 years, in the next 18 months. I'd like to have 2 children. My job pays me so much. How do I now manage that money and plan to have a home, by the time I get married? And different things. You discuss it with people who would be confident enough to help you. They are within, I think, the Ministry of Social Development. They have what you call them now, the people that goes around and speak with people. The word just not coming to me. Counselors. That's the word I want to get. For some reason, it's just not coming. I'm sorry about that. Excuse me. You may need to see one of them. And seeing a counselor doesn't necessarily mean that you're mentally ill or that you're going off, or, But sometimes you just need people who have the skills, who have the experience, who know a bit more than you do, because we are not the repository of all knowledge and all skills. We cannot do everything perfectly on our own.
Yeah.
There are things and areas where we would need assistance. So you make an appointment. You sit with a counselor. You say to them, these are the plans that I have. How can you help me to visualize and to realize those dreams? Yeah. Planning. And as a people, we have to recognize that if we don't plan properly for what is to come or for what we want, we're going to accept anything that comes. And we're going to fall into any situation and be the victim of those situations because we never had a plan. We don't have a direction. We don't know where we're going and why we're going in a certain direction. We're just following the crowd. We are moving with the wind and we can go anywhere. It's like a boat that has lost its engine and is drifting on sea. The wind can push it anyway. It can push it against a rock, where it can become shipwreck. It can push it into tougher and more dangerous waters, as well as, if possible, you get a good wind that is pushing towards shore, you may come ashore. But you just don't know because you have absolutely no control, because you don't have a plan and you don't have an engine that you can take control with.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Paul. And more every day I sit and I wonder, especially with all of the things that's happening, COVID, and you never know what the next thing is going to be. You know, it's very important for us to sit and plan our lives. Where do you want to see yourself? How do you get to that place? And even if you can't answer those questions and you need a little guidance, like you said, there are people out there to talk to. Somebody may just give you the next big idea. You just don't know. You know, we have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good day. I'm calling Bola.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, we're hearing you.
Morning. Yeah. Mr. Bola in the agriculture sector too.
Yes, sir.
Concerning the same manufacturing, people say go into agriculture. But concerning to manufacturing, people say, oh, look, people's time must do manufacturing thing. It's about almost 8 years now, the Junior Cocoa Association have a chocolate factory running. After 8 years, you say in 5 years, they generate about $35 million in 5 years. Because up to today, the hard-working farmers can get $1 out of this profit. So I'm about what I think about and what soon you feel that will trickle along to the farmers, because that look at that what during my generation, that look at that might happen way my grandchildren might get benefit from that. I want to know the reason why, because 8 years going, how we can get $1? Let me $1 to say look at type of appreciation. I want to hear your take on that, because this thing pauses me, man. You can have a thing 8 years running a factory and you're begging people to go into manufacturing, and no people, you're doing into manufacturing and nobody getting benefit out of that. So how I see manufacturing just a waste of time. Take care, Mr. Bola, and take care.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Quite interesting, and I mean, we're running down to the end. But it's a topic and an area that we need to spend some time, and we need. And caller, I can give you just my views, but I don't know the inside workings, and I will suggest that as a farmer, you seem to be, and I know for a fact now, as a matter of fact, today, I think the Cocoa Association was scheduled to have a meeting in Grenville with farmers. They are now doing area meetings with farmers. They had one very recently in Sautez. I think they did Victoria already, and I also learned that the Nutmeg Association will soon be having. As the caller said, if you're doing, and when the Cocoa Association started in Diamond, that chocolate factory, Juve is the chocolate, which I buy all the time. You would know that. I support local. You don't ever like what I buy, because I buy the 90% sometimes.
I like their chocolate, but the ones that has ginger and nutmeg, it has to have a hint of something. The dark is just a little bit too dark.
You just don't like the one I buy, because it is more cocoa.
But you should
sugar.
be happy, because then that means I'll eat less of what you buy.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Yes, I didn't see it that way. Because I like to support local, and I always, cocoa is good and everything. But when that factory started with the Buddicks, there was a foreign investor who, copped with the Cocoa Association, and they started that factory. It was about using a lot of what we have locally to have value added, as we call it. So it won't be just selling our raw material, the primary product, just selling it out to foreign buyers. But now we can create more employment. We because at the factory you'd have to employ people, and you can get value added, because by changing it from raw cocoa into chocolate, you get a better price and so forth. And it is my understanding from all that I've heard that the venture has been profitable and has been doing well. The question is, as the caller asked, why hasn't the farmers benefited anything? Because it's an association. My understanding is that it operates, the factory operates slightly different from the Cocoa Association itself. It's like a subsidiary, and so. But it's an excellent question to know, that if now 5 or 8 years, as he has said, you've been in operation, you've been reporting that you're doing well, you're making a profit, why hasn't the members of the association been told, well, look, we have not distributed anything to you because we're trying to build a reserve, or what? Where is the profit going? Who is benefiting? who are the people really benefiting from the proceeds that you're saying you're making, the profits that you're making?
Right.
Where is it going? How is it being spent? How am I, as a farmer, benefiting from it? Because I also know that the association has been going to government. They just recently, because of COVID, sent a proposal, which I understand that the government accepted and counter-proposed that they get $2 million. That is the Cocoa Association.
And that is for price support and
1
million
million for price support for the farmers. 1 million, and that is in grant.
Right.
It is not monies that they have to pay back. It's
Right.
not a loan. But it must go directly to support price so that prices don't drop.
Right.
Over the next year or 2 years or what, that the farmers continue to get a reasonable price and stabilizing the price. There is another million proposed in loan with, I think, 1.5% increase over a 5-year period to be repaid with 2 years moratorium. So for the next 2 years, they don't have to pay anything. And if they wish, and then they take 5 years. Similarly, the Nutmeg Association has received $1 million in grant from the government for price support and $2 million in loan, which they must pay over 7 years period. But the bottom line is, and the question that bugs a lot of minds, it bugged my mind, it bugged the farmer's mind, and any business-minded individual, who is accounting for the profitability of these things? Where is the profit going? No, I can't accuse anyone. There are a lot of suppositions, and there are a lot of things that you hear, and there are a lot of finger pointing, and there are a lot of people that is believed to be benefiting. I don't know that for a fact, but I think it's an excellent question that the farmers must place. Now that you have the meetings, and now that they're saying, because the government has been pushing and they have been asking for a number of years now, why don't these two associations amalgamate, come together? And it could be much more profitable if you do, because 90% of the people, so let's take 1,000 farmers, for example, we use 1,000 as an example, that are in the association. 90% of that grow both nutmeg and cocoa.
Right.
But you have two separate boards. You have a board with a manager and a chairman and a board of directors and an accountant and several workers with the Nutmeg Association. You have a similar thing with the Cocoa Association. Board of directors, chairman, manager, accountant, secretary, what have you. The farmers who you see in AGM meeting of the Nutmeg Association are definitely 90% or 95% of them, you see them at the AGM when cocoa has it. So that's one farmer who sells a little cocoa and a little nutmeg, has to support two separate boards, have to be paying two managers with pretty decent salaries of over $5,000 a month, would have to support secretary and accountants and traveling allowances. So the government has been saying consistently, if you now come together, you would have one board that manages both cocoa and nutmeg. They are all farm products, and they come, most of them, from the same area, from the same people. One accountant to deal with all of it. However, though, it is my understanding that the boards are out there meeting now with farmers and selling them a different idea. Not that government wants them to become much more profitable and the farmers to benefit much more, but they are saying that the government wants to take the associations away from them to give it to foreign nationals. I don't know how true that is. I've been seeking information. Someone said on a program, one announcer, that he has a copy of the agreement with some foreign company. I've never seen that. I've never heard of that. We can reach out, and I have had people trying to reach out to the Minister of Agriculture. What I do know is that there is a committee. My understanding that there is a committee headed by Dr. Spencer Thomas with Mr. Derek Charles, who works with AICA, the Inter-American Institute for Agriculture, with the chairperson of the Cocoa Association and the chairperson of the Nutmeg Association, and a couple of other persons looking at how best that the associations can come together and form one association to manage the farmers' affairs. So I know that much. I know some years ago we had gotten some funding from a regional organization known as Compete Caribbean, who had paid for a legal mine out of Jamaica. A gentleman who has been a lawyer for many years, Dr. Macaulay, I think was his name, who came here, who made a study of the Cocoa Association ordinance, as well as the Nutmeg Association, who would have had several engagements with the managers of both associations, with the board of both associations, and made some suggestions. And I recall one of his suggestions is that you don't just amalgamate cocoa and nutmeg, but even include the minor spices, which is in the spice industry, because cocoa and nutmeg are considered as spice. And then you have minor spices, which is separate. That is the one that deals with the cinnamon and the tonkan bean and the cloves and what have you. Bring them all into one. All of those documentations are there. I recall sometime before both cocoa and nutmeg was asked to form a subcommittee and to look at the advantages and disadvantages of amalgamation, the do's and the don'ts, the high points and the low points, and that was done and submitted to the Ministry of Agriculture. So it has been an ongoing process. It has been something in the making for a long time. The discussions has been ongoing for quite a while, and only the Grenada or the New Today just recently put out an article on that same issue with a lot of accusations. So it's something that needs to be dived into. It's something that needs to be explained. It's something that those who are pushing a certain line must be able to say where they're getting their information and how authentic the information may be. And so, caller, I really cannot tell you why you are not receiving anything from the so-called profits that is being made by the association. But you have a board in place, board that was elected by farmers, board that meets and was placed there for the control of the farmers' business. So please pose the question now that they're having these area meetings. Ask them the very question that you're asking here. Why? Yes, I'm into farming, but I'm not a cocoa and nutmeg farmer. I have a couple of nutmeg trees in my garden. The wife goes in and picks them up. The last time she got a little paint bucket full. I mean, there are about 6 trees, but we don't sell to the thing. They're young. They just start producing. We use them and give a couple to the neighbors, and
I think I'm going to have to give her a call,
Yeah, you will. But for people outside of the village and outside of the constituency, there will be a charge to it. So, I mean, very interesting question and something that is thought-provoking and may lead to many other things. But I think it's best placed to the chairman and the board of directors in those meetings so they can give some kind of explanation.
But Mr. Bola, as we're on that topic and we're close to closing, we've said this here before, that a lot of times we spend too much time involving ourselves in the petty politics of an issue, that we don't spend enough time minding our business. When I say minding our business, I mean involving ourselves in things that affect us directly. And we've said here before that as a member of an association, whether it be an association or a union, whatever it may be, you must know what is available to you. You must know that, because I'm sure that they pay some dues, farmers for in the association.
I don't think that the Cocoa and Nutmeg Association has any dues. It's like, because you have so much individual farmers with little bits of this and little bits of that, the association is really there to help manage, and bring together, get the sales, manage it, purchase it from the farmers, sell it internationally, or transform it into value added as cocoa is doing now. And at the end of the day, the profits that are derived after you pay workers and people who manage and do what have you. Something should be going back to the farmers in whatever form, whether it's in cash or in labor or what have you.
So as an individual, you must be so much on top of things that you know exactly what is going on. I'm sure if you ask the farmers what profit has been received in the past 2 years or what profit they receive yearly, or most of them may not be able to answer. All they know is that at some point they're supposed to be getting a little rebate. They're supposed to be getting something back. They don't know what the amount is because they don't know what the profit is. So what I'm saying is it is important for us to know these things, make these things our business, because these decisions, they affect you directly, but we sometimes tend to involve ourselves in the petty politics. So because we may not like the administration, somebody may say, oh, the government ain't doing nothing for nutmeg and cocoa farmers. So we spend our time attacking government, when at the end of the day, we have no idea what is going on just right in front of us. And the same thing goes for unions, whether it's teachers unions or public workers unions or so on. Know what is available to you, so that at the end of the day, when you retire from government, still an unestablished worker, you don't understand what is available to you or what you have access to. When you are working, you don't know what your union dues are going towards and what the union is supposed to do for you, apart from just the simple negotiations. So you see, these things are important because we have to start minding our own business. Minding our own business in the sense of taking care of home first, thinking about ourselves in terms of what am I going to do for my future? Am I just going to pay NIS and wait and sit down until I retire? And when I retire, I quarreling because I feel like what NIS giving me is not enough. When you had all these years to find out, well, what am I going to receive from NIS? What do I need to do to sustain myself monthly? Can I start a small business that can take me through my retirement? These are the things that we need to start considering and stop jumping up in the petty melee of this and that and the excitement of social media, and the commerce of politics. We have to get out of that place and start thinking about our futures, start putting our plans in place, start minding our business. Because that's the only way, Mr. Bola, we're going to be prepared for anything that happens to us in the future.
Well, we need to mind our business, and when you say mind your own business, not just doing it yourself, but holding the people who you place there to look after or to look at business on your behalf, holding them accountable, letting them give you the rationale for whatever is happening, not just come and play around your head, which is what I understand is happening quite often in a lot of these associations. Nice talk, tell people things that make them smile, and the real issues are not being dealt with. The farmers leave a meeting not knowing exactly what it is that has happened, or why certain things has happened. So seek the explanation from the members of the board is necessary.
And ask the right questions to the right people.
Yep.
I keep saying that. When you jump up on social media and you call in programs and you only hope that the right people see it or that it gets to them. But wouldn't it be much easier and much faster
to get to them directly
if you just get to them directly?
Yep.
So let's start using the proper channels. Let's start understanding the processes. Let's start following the policies and protocols. Like they say, comply and then complain.
Comply and then complain.
You can't complain about something that you've never tried.
Complied to.
Never complied to. So you don't know if it will work for you. As Mr. Clark said when he was here, you have farmers who may go and plant tomatoes and somebody see that, whoa, this tomato thriving, so I go in and try it too. But what worked for that farmer may not work for you. In the same context in life, it may not work for somebody else, but it may work for you. So you can't use someone else's experience to judge what your experience will be. You know?
Well, you can gauge.
You can gauge.
From what
but it cannot determine if that will be the outcome.
No, it can't determine the outcome, but at least it gives you an idea what you should be working towards.
Exactly. So, guys, we are, Mr. Bola, we over time. Not even out of time.
Over time. And so I want to thank all those who have listened and to say to you, please do enjoy the rest of Monday, the rest of the week, and think positive. Always hoping that whatever you do or say is going to bring positive results, not just for you, but for those around you and those within hearing of what you say or what you do. Take care, everyone.
Absolutely, guys. And as we say, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe and be secure. I always want to be talking with you and never about you. Please do enjoy the remainder of your day.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
"59 Grenadians touched down on local soil in the first repatriated flight from the United States. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Friday, June 19th, 2020, I am Rikisha St. Louis. The first repatriation flight from the United States via JetBlue Airlines landed at the Morris Bishop International Airport on Friday with 59 Grenadians on board. The Grenadians, who were stranded due to the closure of borders, were all happy to make the flight and be back on Grenadian soil. The arrival flight was used by the Ministry of Health and the MBIA to test its readiness to reopen the country's borders in the coming weeks. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Francis Martin was on hand to observe the process so that his team can take notes for any adjustments that may be needed.
It is going as planned with some challenges that we've seen, some bottlenecks that we've seen, and an opportunity to improve. Those are checked, and both myself, the permanent secretary, is here. We're able to identify what are the minor changes that will take place for the reopening. But basically the process is coming in, getting registered, getting your rapid test done, and after the result is gotten, then everyone goes into quarantine. And of course the result is going to be differ depending on the circumstances of each individual. And so this is really what the process is.
He has already spotted some areas that need to be adjusted.
The first entrance, when they get in, the registration and getting hand sanitization before they go on to be tested, that one needs to speed up a little bit. So it probably means working a little bit more in improving the process of our port health officers, what they do at their desks. This is one of the areas. We're not necessarily happy to increase numbers of port health officers, but just the process of how they capture the data. That is a major one that I think we need to work on.
Health Minister Honorable Nicholas Steele was also at the arrival launch to welcome the Grenadians and at the same time observe the process.
We are comfortable with this as being a dry run. We see certain things that we do need to make some changes on, so that the wait time is less, that our returning nationals or whoever is coming in are as comfortable as possible, but that we maintain the testing procedures as efficiently and as effectively as possible. So there are some changes that we will make, but in general today, everyone has come in, and within 30 to 40 minutes of starting of testing, everyone has been tested, and individuals are already leaving the testing area because they have received negative test results, proceeding to immigration, and customs to then be brought to the quarantine site.
General Manager at the MBIA, Wendy Frances Williams, is satisfied with the process thus far as it will direct the way forward for border reopening.
It will help us to work out the capacity in our arrival hall. It will also help us to work out the dwell time standards within the arrival hall to customs and so on, so that in a way we will be able to tell the turnaround times of aircraft moving forward and how we'll be able to plan our master schedule moving forward. So this is a very instrumental exercise for us today. It's our first big flight in terms of arrival, not departure, but arrival. And this arrival flight will be our base flight in planning and moving ahead with planning for the future.
All 59 repatriated Grenadians were interviewed and tested before going through to immigration process and customs, and then to the awaiting transportation to take them to their quarantine facility. Later in the newscast, we have reactions from a few of those who returned home on Friday. The Grenville Bus Terminal will resume normal operations on Monday, 22nd June, following the completion of Phase 1 of retrofitting work. That confirmation from the Ministry of Transport and Works and the Royal Grenada Police Force. On Friday, officials from the ministry, the RGPF, and representatives from the various zone associations toured the newly retrofitted facility to give approval for its use on Monday. The Grenville Bus Terminal was closed to the majority of buses as government and the RGPF looked at ways to ensure COVID-19 regulations were not violated. Lyndon Bullen, civil engineer in the Transport Ministry, says with the completion of Phase 1, more work will be done on terminals in Sates and Carriacou.
This basically is the first phase, which was just to cater for the loading bays, so that way passengers can come in, they can social distance and still be protected from the weather. So in the second phase, what we're going to try to cater for is a pavement of the crushed stone area, and we're going to also cater for some drainage at the back of the terminal. So that way all water collected and accumulated on the surface can be directed back out towards the sea. We had the same done in St. George's. We had this one in St. Andrews. And currently we're trying to have engagement with Carriacou and also Sates to see if we can have something similar arranged. So for this one in particular, once the plans were prepared within a few days, we would have engaged contractors, and this was done more or less in 2.5 weeks following the planning and approval from the committee. The ones in St. George's, they were a lot smaller areas to work with, so it was a lot faster to put together than this one.
ACP Justman Prince explained how the new process will unfold from Monday.
We have six loading bays, and each of the loading bay will have about 3 buses at any one time. So that is way over the amount that is required. 15 and then you have extra 3. So that will be the arrangement going forward. Now when the buses come in, all buses will be entering from that side. And once you enter, you make your way all the way down, and then you'll be sanitized. We're going to bring over the sanitization booth to the left a little bit more, so you don't have to go to the dot area and come back out. You just go straight under the sanitized, get sanitized, and then if you want to leave, you swing out and you leave straight. That is if you're ponging the road, you continue on. And if you wait, you get sanitized and you come back, drive through this lane, and then you take your park in your designated area. So all of these parking here will be designed and designated to the various zones.
President of the Northern Bus Association, Chris Williams, says the move to retrofit the terminal was a great one that is highly appreciated by the drivers.
We appreciate the covering, the new settings for the buses, in encouraging social distancing and so on, because part of the terminal we used to use before is currently using for sanitization and so on. So we understand that, we will have to get new structures, and we appreciate the covering and so on. Also, there is a few areas in which I think there should be improvement. As you can see, the area is not paved. Now the authorities said that paving will take place soon, So we're hoping that we don't have to spend the next year or 2 years in that mud or in that gravel area.
Continuing with the news, 8 cruise ship workers who tested positive on the rapid test in the final group that arrived in Grenada have been cleared after passing the PCR test. However, Health Minister Honorable Nicholas Steele says, out of an abundance of caution, they are being kept in mandatory quarantine and will be tested again. Minister Steele says, as it stands at this point, Grenada has 0 cases of COVID-19.
So as of today, we can say still we have 0 cases of COVID-19 in Grenada. We have people in quarantine that we will continue to test. So there is the possibility that 1 or 2 or so, God forbid though, but some of those individuals who are in quarantine may test positive for COVID-19, and we would have to say that we have 1 case in quarantine. But we do not have right now, and the safety procedures, that's why we insist on the quarantine period, and that's why we're making it mandatory quarantine where there is that risk.
Grenada has conducted 853 PCR tests to date and 4,500 rapid tests. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Do you still have EC 1 and 2 cent coins? If you do, then you have until the end of this month, 30th June, to spend them, exchange, or deposit them at your commercial bank. After 30th June, you will not be able to use your 1 and 2 cents as they will no longer be legal tender. Find them, spend them, exchange, or deposit them at your commercial bank. Act now and receive value for your 1 and 2 cent coins by 30th June.
Welcome back. It was all smiles for 59 Grenadians who made the first repatriation flight home from the U.S. since the closure of the country's borders on March 22nd, 2020, due to the threat of COVID-19. Before heading into the arrival lounge after passing through the sanitization chamber, Michael Straley, Augustus Joseph, and Michael Smith all spoke of their joy to be home, thanking the government for its efforts.
It is so wonderful to be here. I'm just overwhelmed. Yeah, I've been away for 3 months and I can't, that's all. Thank you. Thank you for the government of Grenada for getting us home.
I went up for 6 weeks and I spent four months. And the best thing could ever happen to me, I'm back home. And the best, I love to see how you all set it up. I was supposed to come back on the 2nd of April. And I just get here. That's the best feeling for 4 months. Yes, I'm glad. Protecting me.
It's awesome to be home. We long awaited to come back, and now we're here.
I'm quite impressed with the embassy and the government here in what they did in organizing this flight for us. I'm very much happy to be home. Well, I'm a law-abiding citizen, and it's of paramount importance that I follow the laws of the land, and I will follow the protocols out here and adhere to all the laws of the land.
But while these Grenadians were happy to be home, 2 visitors, Jonathan Lowe and Keith Robinson, were sad to leave the country. They both were part of the 60 non-nationals who left the country via the JetBlue flight that brought home the repatriated Grenadians.
I've been in Grenada since March 9th. Yes and no. I had a place to stay. I was staying with my girlfriend, and I decided to cancel my flight due to the outbreak in the States, and it seemed like at the time there was less cases here, so I wanted to stay where it was a little bit safer. I don't want to go because I love it here, but besides that, I'm excited to go home and see my family. I'm not excited about coronavirus, but we're taking all the precautions. It looks like the airport's being safe as well, so I feel comfortable flying.
We arrived December 3rd. We wanted to leave May 4th, and we weren't able to. So we actually had 2 other flights booked, but they were canceled. So we just were patient until we got this news from the embassy, and we're taking advantage of it. pretty happy. I'm ready to go home just because it's home, but I love Grenada, and we're coming back November 1st.
And that story just ended the national report for today, Friday, June 19th. Let's recap the top story. 59 Grenadians touched down on local soil in the first repatriated flight from the United States. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.